Warning!
You're watching Dr. Todd Lee TV, where theoretically you could learn a bunch of cool shit. Well, hello there. We have a special guest today. We have none other than the Emperor himself, John Jewett, live from Coruscant. So, John, tell us about your galactic empire and how you're going to conquer this season.
Yeah, well, the minions are out at work. They're bringing in new fields of rice grain that I've had harvested, and all is going as planned. No, so all the season's going well. I did a lot of traveling in October, and I'm such a homebody. I'm so glad to be back home because we had the week at the Olympia, then a week home, was just basically catching up on work to then leave again and go to Italy for a week to do a seminar out there. So Renee and I, we were like trying to be home base and stay here as long as we can.
I know how it is. It's like once I get locked in after a week, then I can almost start growing. But if there's too much chaos going on, it's just like nothing. I'm not going to sleep right. There's always something going on, and it always gets in the way. But if I get like a week solid, it just really starts to take off.
Do you get anxious when you're away? Because like the training's different, and
it depends. If I was to chase my logbook, then yes, it would stress me the fuck out. If I'm just like, I am not going to chase my logbook, I'm going to be trying to train one or two in RIR, and I'm going to enjoy experimenting with new equipment. Then it takes the pressure off, and I get to learn some new ways of targeting muscles that may not have been responding. Like, for instance, when we lifted together, the dead bugs and the bracing has completely changed how I end every set. So in case I wasn't braced, if I re-brace, and then I can squeeze out at least 2 or 3 more sets, and they almost explode because they're anchored to that firm foundation. So even though I've used a lot of that equipment before, and I obviously can't bring it back home, I get to bring home everything you taught me about bracing, the dead bugs, and a plethora of other things, and that's really helping with this. So had I not traveled, I wouldn't have reaped as much out of the last 8 weeks, even if the exact day we trained, even if hypothetically I didn't stimulate any tissue that day, which I'm sure I did.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, it's not like, because I know people talk about using a novel piece of exercise and that, you know, you're relearning this pattern, you're not going to get as much stimulus. But man, once you're like past this even beginner stage, man, the transference of a chest press machine to another chest press machine, there's not really a learning component there. It's going to carry over really well. And for yourself too, like you're hiring prep. So it's like prep is what prep has to be. It's not like you're in the off season and you're also don't have the time to put priority around it. Like for your day, right? It completely revolved around being the best you could be on stage, right? Like training, eating, for like going out to say, like for us at the Olympia, right? Like Sean's the priority. Or for Italy, it's like I'm doing the seminar. And so everything kind of has to be shuffled around to make sure I'm present for people. So it's more of those things. I'm cool with the training. Like I like training new pieces and trying them out. But yeah, there's nothing like stringing together your own sessions at home with the exact, like, I've like perfected the setup on my pieces at home, right? So I feel like it's my best gauge of assessment once I'm there.
Well, plus, I guess it's a little different when you have such a great gym like the Muscle Factory, and you have 2 or 3 amazing things for every exercise you want to do. Then when you travel, it's comparing like a grade A or worse piece of equipment to a grade A piece of equipment. In Detroit, we don't have really great equipment. We're starting to have some places have a popped up, like Umbra has a couple Panada pieces. And some of the powerhouses now have a couple Panada pieces. But up until like 2 years ago, we were using the same hammer strength we've been using for 30 years. So it's like when we get to go to other places, we're going to the future. We can't possibly fail.
Yeah, I figure it's almost time that you have your own gym set up.
I thought about it. What's funny is the person who moved out beneath me, it's like nobody moved in, and I could just rent that place, and it's like street level screen door right to my parking spot, so I could just dolly in equipment right through the screen door, easier than you would even make it through the front door. And then I could literally turn the whole first floor apartment into just a gym.
How is that enough square? Is it like a good chunk of square footage?
It's like 1,500 square feet.
Oh, that's a good
But
amount.
it's like, if it's just you, like, what are you going to put? If you don't put in a leg press, that's a huge profile. Like, if you're profile conscious, you can put a lot of stuff in there, especially if you build out like arms and shoulders first. So like, okay,
That's all you need.
well, you compromise. You're like, well, okay, the leg equipment's $100,000. The arm equipment's probably like $12. You know, like, you basically, if you're going to go to the gym any day of the week, it probably should be the leg day, because think about how much money you save by not going to the gym on leg day. I mean, by going to the gym on leg day and not having home gym leg equipment, because that stuff's where all the money is.
Yeah, when I went up to Sean's gym and trained, like he has 4,500 square feet, which it's massive. Like he has rows of numerous different chest pieces or leg pieces, right? So he enjoys the collection part of it, but it's like to really narrow it down, because even at the Muscle Factory, like I only have really like 2 chest pieces that I like, right, that connect well. So it's like in a home gym, like that's the only ones I would get. So I've still thought about doing my own thing, because there's nothing like walking into your own gym and doing whatever the hell you want, and nothing's on it. Hopefully you wouldn't have to. You could walk downstairs. That'd be so cool. I wouldn't have to drive anywhere.
Like Roman used to do that every day. That's why he worked out twice a day. That was the part of the puzzle people didn't consider. And they also didn't think about, if he's training every day, twice a day, he can't have fat pre and post workout. That pretty much means like a low fat diet in order to absorb everything as fast as it needs to absorb. And that when you put it all together like that, then you're like, oh, that's why it's high carb and volume training. It's because the gym's in the basement and it's low fat so that the carbs keep moving through.
We're talking to the 0.1% of the world, right? Like the 1,000-gram carb guy in the off season. But one thing you brought up about training and traveling is like trying new equipment. And in Italy, the Gym Laco had their gym set up, and man, I used the Gym Laco hack squat, and it was the best hack squat I've ever used. And it's interesting because it's just like one piece of like square tubing, and your pad just runs on this one tube, but it's the smoothest thing, and it's the smallest profile ever seen for a hack. Even their leg presses like that. So I'm not sponsored by Gym Laco, but if I had a home gym, like, man, those would be probably 2 pieces that I would get, because their profile is so small.
I think Koopa just put up a video of him doing the hack squat on something like that.
Yeah. So we trained with him out there. He's like, this is the one that we use at home. I was like, oh, I've never used it, but he's like, oh, this is the best. Like, there's you don't feel any knee, shearing force on it, and it's so smooth, and it has some like a good profile setup. So yeah, that would be on my list as like the best hack squat that I've ever used.
My favorite hack squat's the Cybex with the reverse band, and I know people think you're crazy for doing reverse band. I think the profile mounts up so fast in the stretch load position that the reverse band just blunts the slope. What do they say? Like, flattening the curve. What was that? Yeah,
yes.
The reverse band flattens the curve of the profile but it still has the right profile, and that I feel it helps the knees. But the pendulum's better.
Yeah, to pick like between them all, pendulum is for sure. The thing with the reverse band, right? It's like many people just mess it up and ruin the profile. So it needs the right setup, and to tinker it to find it right. I don't think a lot of people have the knowledge of why they're even doing it in the first place anyway. But like with that Cybex, like I think that's the one you wouldn't need the band on, because it's set up in such a right position. But the point 2 here, right, is like once you get to a point of like reaching close failure, like maybe you inch a little bit more stimulus out of that final rep, but it's probably not a major deal if you were worried that you didn't have your band set up just right.
Right. It's the way I heard was you want a tiny amount of tension at the top, and then you want some tension at the bottom, versus having a lot of tension at the top, so that in order for the sled to even touch bottom, it's got 4 plates on it.
Yeah, right. We still know probably that bottom position is going to be your best bang for the buck for like stimulus, but it does create a very large moment arm at the bottom. It's where like you got a little band just to help you get out of that position. Also, just with the hacking itself, it is a lot of people have issues with their knees on it because it is such a big motor arm and a lot of tension on the knee. So that could just, maybe it's just like a little insurance to keep your joint safe long term.
Because I found that if I don't use the reverse band and the knee sleeve and the knee wraps, then one of my knees is going to go within a couple weeks.
Yes.
But I can go to my little heart's content if I've got all three of those safety measures in place in a hack squat. As long as my heels don't come up and I'm using all that protective equipment, I can get sick pumps, but I still get a better response from the pendulum because your feet don't have to go out. They can just go forward.
Well, I think there's your answer too, right? If you need XYZ to just be able to do this lift and I might not be able to sustain it for weeks on end, that's probably not the lift to choose, right? When you have your pendulum there where I don't need to be, sleeved up and reverse band and I can like do this lift for 8 weeks now. So like that's a programming part that people should consider, right?
Right. And I've tried it both ways with the leg extensions first and the leg extensions second. And that, yeah, you theoretically can handle more weight if you do the leg extensions second. But I feel like when I do leg extensions first, I get less knee pain later. I get a better pump on the leg extension. I handle more load on the leg extension. I usually, within a couple of weeks, handle the same load on the squat or press or whatever the variant is. And I'm getting deeper on it.
I second that. That I still do leg extensions first. I'd like take note from the older guys, like success leaves clues. Like a lot of guys end up doing leg extension and squat or like leg press, then the squat. Like there's reasons for those things that why you're seeing them. Even on paper, if you get the most stimulus, it doesn't matter if you just won't be able to sustain it. Or like, man, it's always like it's usually other body parts that are coming in and not just fully on all quad. If that's your goal, right? If that's what you want. That's probably where it caters best to beginners. We're like, hey, yeah, you should do your squat first because you need systemic stimulus. You don't need it all just directed to one body part.
Right. Yeah. I guess squatting for 5 and deadlifting for 5 and benching for 5 is great if you're like 18 and 19 because you can't break yet.
Yeah, you're not strong enough to break. I was just telling my friend that because he was like, I was like, listen, don't go ham. He kept off a deload, so I was like, don't go murder it today and break yourself. He's like, oh man, thanks to think that you think I could even train hard enough to murder. I was like, yes, because you break things. I was like, most people don't train hard enough to break themselves. It's a rite of passage of getting stronger and being able to train hard,
and you have to put like defensive measures. You're like, I'm going to put this exercise way back here. So I'm going to put this here and this here and this here. Like you're your own boss in a boss battle, and you're setting up all these mini bosses to weaken all the other muscle. So by the time you get to the boss battle, it's too weak to actually defeat it. So that you don't end up tearing it right off the bone because you hit it too hard.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Todd, we just jumped in and talked about training. I don't know. Is this the topic you want? What are we talking about today?
It was basically every time I talk to you, we never shoot the shit. And I always feel bad. Like you're like, oh shit. And like you're going before a Senate hearing. And I'm just like lighting you up with all these fancy questions. So this time I just wanted to be chill because like 2 years ago, you said, next time I wish it was just chill. And we never have had a chill conversation. Like we've always been super big into science stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I enjoy it. Like there's topics that are on my mind right now about sciencey things, but also just training and things that pop up. Honestly, like most of where my head goes, because I'm probably a lot of people come to your page and they want to know the drug sciencey stuff. You're like, it's probably all Todd thinks about all day long, and what a lot of people think about all day long. And at least for myself, I think about training like all day long and how I can keep like tinkering around, making things more optimal for myself. At the gym today was a push day. I just got done. And like the prime incline press, I really like it because of the profile. And so I've taken we have just a free bench that's not mounted to anything pad. And I put that on the prime and I put a yoga block under the bottom to like make the incline a little less steep. And today I put a 10-pound plate on it because I found like tweaking that angle a little bit more of a decline was like perfect on the upper pec. And so now all the people at the gym are doing this too. So I'm like, where's my yoga block? And like, oh yeah, everyone's using it now. But a lot of people won't understand like why I'm doing it. That they're just,
it's just monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, like I mean, it's probably a good idea because that piece is pretty steep. But the point being is like, yeah, most of my time in the gym or outside is like still thinking about programming and how I can optimize that part of it, because that's the biggest thing, and people still miss the most on not what the latest peptide is and how they can implement it in, right?
It's so funny because it's like they don't understand. It's like people are telling me about this brand new drug that I did a video about 10 years ago. It's like, it's new to you, bro, but this shit just goes around. And when they can't sell it anymore, they just shelve it until that generation quits and the new generation pops up and they bring it back and they try to push it again. And they do that with drugs. They do it with everything. So it's like, if the supplements were that big of a deal, then everyone with money would be jacked.
Yeah, it's true. It's still just coming down to the basics. But now the problem is the basics are hard to come by. So...
Oh, the test?
Yeah. In mass. Well,
worldwide shortage. Yeah. The worldwide shortage. We can finish this conversation off camera and we'll circle back to this afterward. So what is your plans for global domination? When are we taking this Olympia stage next?
Yeah. So I'm going to compete in 26.
Okay.
What show I just haven't quite nailed down. I put on my story today, Anthony Williams. He's an open guy that I'm prepping. He's a monster, man. He's 6'2". He's like 295 right now. And he turned pro at the Arnold Amateur. And so he's qualified for the Arnold. And so he's doing his debut at the Arnold. And so I want to be like fully present for him and just be out there. And we're probably going to do Detroit too. So that takes that off the table for me. And then I'll probably be doing some type of shows that are right after that, which
this guy's
I don't know
huge.
It's crazy.
Holy shit. And this is your athlete from cradle to grave? I shouldn't put it that way. From beginning to the stage?
Yeah. Yeah, like I picked him up at the Arnold when he turned pro. We ran off season, and now we're like pulling him back down for his pro debut. Before this, he's never had a coach.
Is the pro debut Detroit, you said?
Or the Arnold.
How is he doing the Arnold as his pro debut?
When you turn pro at the Arnold, they give you an automatic invite.
Oh, shit. That's prestigious.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I was like, that's super cool. We had planned to do Detroit first, but then they moved Detroit till after. So I'm like, well, okay.
Okay, so I'm so confused. Is Detroit the 28th?
It is. Was that March? Is it the 13th or something? The next weekend?
That makes sense. Someone told. Okay, this really messed me up in my head then, because someone told me that the Detroit was before the Arnold, and I'm like, okay, that's terrible. And then a bunch of other factors went into it, and I ended up saying, you know what, I'd rather do an off season. And then now this makes more sense. It's in March 14th. I probably still would have done the offseason, but that would have been much more doable than February 28th. And people are like, what's 2 weeks make a difference? It's like Michigan is so cold in February compared to how much warmer it is in March. It's absurd. So that's like why it makes such a big deal, is that 4 weeks is a big, or 2 weeks is a big deal.
So I'll have him there, but at least for myself, I'll probably be doing like California, Legion, and Toronto. I'm undecided about a New York or Pittsburgh. I've done New York. I've just never done Pittsburgh. I really like Legion. I've never done the California show, but I've done Toronto. But it's just like, well, you just got to kind of do what is the best lineup, like in a string of shows, because it's like a show every weekend. So like I might as well just go back to back in that order. I think after then it just jumps over to some of the European shows, which I don't really want to do that after going to Italy and experiencing that. So
Toronto is what, June 4th?
I think so.
Okay. And then Chicago will probably be July 13th, July 15th. So there's a 6 week gap where there's probably is nothing to do with stateside.
But there's no open in Chicago anymore.
Oh, they took it away?
Yeah,
Oh.
last year they didn't have it.
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize that. So nonetheless, you're completely right, because if you get to New York and anything, then you got a very prestigious run right there.
Yeah, so I mean that'd be a solid one. And I started the off season earlier this year to be able to have that timeline and just run plenty of shows. So just I'll start prepping, and then where I fall best to bring the best look, I'll start jumping into shows from that point on. And
when would you start prep then? If you're going to be ready by May 14th for New York, when are you going to do January 14th?
I can do like a 12-week prep, and so
okay.
I'll probably start in February.
Okay, so right before the Arnold, and you'll be dieting pretty mildly, at least through the Arnold and through the Detroit Pro, and then you can lock in Texas without any distractions for the rest.
Yeah, I start watching the tail end of my off season and seeing like, all right, now I'm at this point, how many weeks would I actually need to diet, and see how much farther I should be taking it. And I'll kind of gauge it on the end there to make sure like I can more solidify that actual prep timeline. For right now, just keep on moving on up. Not to chase the scale, but to chase the scale a little bit. I would love to see 270. So I've never taken it there before.
What are you right now?
264.
Holy shit, John. When have you ever been 264 before?
Last year I was 265. So that was the heaviest I ever got. So I'm there already, and I still have like plenty of weeks of this push left. I have like eight weeks left. So I'm like, I should easily get up to that point, but I just watch the composition, make sure I can.
You're still really lean though.
I stay lean. Yeah. There's been some interesting conversations around this about not needing a calorie surplus to grow muscle. And you've talked to this, right?
Well, you've released a lot lately, and I think the gist of it was your Helms study, where you could gain 1.1 pound of muscle and about 2 pounds of fat, or you could gain 2.1 pounds of muscle and 14 pounds of fat, but which is better? And it's
yeah. Well, I guess the point of what some people are bringing up, right, that mechanistically, like, yeah, true, you don't need the surplus, but in the theoret, like in the actual application, if you have someone that's like at true maintenance calories, likely you might be leaving something on the table, especially with variability in schedule of like the week where you're more active and then you're not fueling training properly. So I think like, hey, a slight surplus is there, but not to get extra fat isn't doing you benefit, in other words. But
right. And then this is where people were beating up on Ella last year about, is because the TDEE definition is fluid depending on who you ask as to what they choose to include. So, for example, if you were to say that fidget factor or NEAT is a static and calculated at 3,000 calories, then it's not. Then you assume it's a static at 4,000 calories. That's where it falls apart. Is that your fidget factor ramps up probably a lot. You probably blow off a lot of calories with NEAT the further you go up in calories, because your body's fighting so hard not to have excess energy.
Yeah, well, it gets to that point that you would be moving towards a new maintenance calorie, right?
That's my point. And that's where I agree with Ella, is that it is maintenance because NEAT is part of maintenance. Yeah. And so is the energy needed to synthesize the tissue. So leading the target is what you do, but whether it's more than TDEE or you're estimating the future as TDEE is just semantics.
It is. And then, I mean, what do you define this surplus as? Like for us, like in application, it's like if you're gaining muscle and maintaining fat, like the scale has to go up, right? So in turn, like, yeah, you could say there is a surplus because you are having body weight gain that is happening. Otherwise, you're recomping. And so I do suggest, hey, we have a rate of body weight increase on a week-to-week basis to ensure that's there. And likely that's probably going to be feeding at a very slight surplus.
Right. And that's, and the worst case scenario is you do 100 calories up, and that's a 3,000 by the end of the month. And then you've gained a pound of fat, which is going to be pretty easy to lose.
That's the other part too, right? Like it's easy to pull it off. Just don't get like, I usually am, get 25, 30 pounds over stage weight, which maybe to gain, a 30% to 40% of that. Last year I was up 25 pounds and I put on like 7-8 pounds of stage weight. It's like, oh man, we had all that extra fat. Like, dude, but
7-8 pounds.
That's a lot. Like, I mean, if we see, like, if I have a timeline to try to max out my rate of gain, like, I'm going to accept the extra fat gain to make sure I have like maximal progress. If I was just doing the long term, I just want to gain muscle. I don't have like goals of being on stage. Like, sure, like, expand your timeline out. But otherwise, I would want to make sure you make the progress, but don't get sloppy fat.
My problem is there was years where I would put on 40 pounds and keep none of it. It's like I like multiple years in a row where I was like, I try to do it my way and put on 12 pounds, don't gain anything. And then people are like, oh, you need to gain fat. And then you gain 40 pounds. And then you diet off all 40 pounds and you kept none of it. You're like, well, great. Thanks, guys. Now I have loose skin.
I think that everyone has that, right? Because I had my year two, stayed really lean. I'm not going to diet hard. I'm not going to have to diet hard. And then I like gained nothing. And then the other year I got super fat. I was up to 230, then dieted down to like 180. I was like, oh my gosh, dang, I like 50 pounds off to get peeled. So I think I finally, after years, so now I'm a master's level competitor, I have the balance right to actually not get too fat and add muscle on.
Well, you were the textbook. I mean, like, you're so meticulous. You even stay in the designated hotel room. You're like the one guy that doesn't get the kitchenette or the Airbnb, that you microwave and air freeze and vacuum seal, or what is it, dry ice freeze and vacuum seal all of your fucking components, your 30-piece meals and shit, and you've got it all organized. Like, nobody could do that. Even organizing it, it'd be launching a campaign to intercontinental conquest. Like, there's so many pieces that could go wrong with those mechanisms, and you keep it all running smoothly. It's unbelievable.
Just, at least for Renee and I, we really appreciate the convenience of being like at the competition site where you never have to leave your room almost. Even to where like she like tans me now, right? Because if you're at your, if you're at your Airbnb, you gotta like run through traffic to like that place and back. It's like, I don't want to do that on peak week. I just want to like stay in my place and tan and eat, and that's it.
Every one of the shows I was doing this season, though, the venue was at a theater that wasn't the host hotel. Yep. So it was superfluous, especially if Kai was going to do the tan anyway. Then it's like, I don't even need to go to the host hotel for the spray painting at 4 a.m. or whatever absurd time you got.
Did Kai do your tan?
Yeah, we followed your video to the letter, and Kai did the tan. It came up perfect.
It's like, yeah, hey, you want to come be my
I know, it was cool. It was awkward.
By the way, you're gonna tan me.
Awkward, no, I warned him in advance. I was like, he's like, "Are you okay with it?" Like,
yeah. So yeah. Well, at least we'll see.
Like, before there was the spray companies, like in 2009, 2010, at state level shows, they didn't have spray painting. You had to take Dream Tan and then buffer it on someone. It was basically like shoe polish. It came off on everything. And it would destroy things. It was like the Gremlins had just hit the theater. Only instead of missing seats with puffs, it's just brown, sparkly glaze all over everything.
Yeah, before, like, I spoke with Alyssa, that she's like runs the Pro-Tan Texas team, and that's what she said. Like, guys, that's all they would do. Like, 7 days out, start doing their self applications. Then on show day, they just show up and put glaze on, like, because they're already so dark, and so they didn't have layer upon layer of these like last minute coats done. And so for myself, where like that tanning process isn't great. If I know the Pro-Tan Texas team is there, I'm cool because they figured it out for me. But anywhere else, like, they've messed my tan up too often, so I'll just bring my own stuff and do it. But it's not bad. It's really not a bad process to do. I mean, you did it. Like, it's quick, it dries fast. And so you're not having to sit around and wait on someone else's time of them not checking on you if you're dry. It also looks
better. When they spray paint you, your armpits don't match, your eyes don't match, like your face doesn't match your body. It's like the reverse jazz singer. It doesn't make any sense at all. Whereas if somebody's actually painting it on, they make sure it looks right.
Well, it's not the
And then,
cattle run either, right? Like, all
yeah.
right, come on, guys, like get all these
You
people
remember
done.
that? Who was that? That was Jan Tana. Jan Tana used to line us up against some plastic tarp naked, and then you just would have someone would just come along and spray all of you at the same time. It
Oh, man.
was so, and then she would walk by in a suit and give you the thumbs up, and you could walk away. You've been sprayed enough.
Oh
It
man,
was
I never
fun.
had that experience. You were the lucky one then, I guess.
That was that specifically North American 2010 in Cleveland.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you? What's going to be the plan?
So I'm just trying to put on muscle right now. I'm running a ment experiment. Basically, I started with like half my TRT test. And then I just started adding 5 ment every 5 days. And originally we put in 15 EQ just to like make sure ment just didn't go hog wild and go crazy with the estrogen. But after like a few weeks, did some blood work. And on 30 tests, I had like a 30 tests a day, so 210 a week.
Yeah.
I had like a 644 total test, a 31 DHT, a 6 estradiol, and a 291 IGF-1. So I figured the 295 IGF-1 was propped up by the Selfin, alpha, keto, methyl estradiol made from the ment, because that 6 estradiol would not be enough to convert my HGH into 295. So we pulled the EQ, and I wanted to see like what happens to the estrogen. How does it bounce back? How does the IGF-1 come up? So after about 3.5 weeks, the estradiol went from a 6 to a 21, and the IGF-1 went up to a 495.
And how much growth hormone is that?
That was with 8 units.
Okay.
So
Is
right
that on
now,
par with the best you've seen from past cycles, or?
No, I mean, when I was running, I was like 26 units and using like 100 estradiol, I could get up to like 550 IGF-1
Okay.
But I was also on like 5,000 calories a day and shooting like 100 units of insulin. So like it's a lot throwing at the kitchen sink just to get an extra 100 IGF-1.
At that point, is it worth it, right?
Right. So at this point, I've got my size 11 shoes now. That's what I got out of that experiment. It wasn't any muscle. It was just bigger feet. So at this point, I think I'm up to a 50 ment. So whereas originally, if I did some videos predicting that the upper limit of ment was like 10 per day, so far I'm getting away with about 50 a day. So 30 tests, 50 ment. And then I started, after our conversation, started using the Anadrol pre-workout. So it's like a very eclectic. And so it starts off so gentle with 30 tests, and you're like, he's lying. And then it's like, oh, Andy's using 50 ment, Andy's using, what do you call 50 Anadrol a day?
So when you bring up tolerable for mint, like what's the tolerable point that would become?
I would say that I started looking like a water balloon and started having like some puffy mass behind my nipple around 35. And then I put the EQ back in at about 12 a day. And then that quickly went away. So I think running no estrogen control at all, my upper limit on ment would be 30 tests, 30 ment. But by I'm right now at 6 EST a day. I know you're like, what, 6? Yeah, 6 milligrams of EQ a day. I'm able to keep that completely controlled, asymptomatic, where I've got striations through the nipples and stuff again. But I don't feel dry like when I had a 6 estradiol. I figure my estradiol is probably like a 9 or a 10 right now, because I increased the test from a 30 to a 40.
So when you see that lab number of estradiol, because I imagine that's ultra sensitive. I mean, you probably don't have data on around how the methyl estradiol comes up on labs, or do you?
I guess what? I took it into consideration its shadow. So I'm like, how can I catch this? Well, I can't catch it directly, but maybe it leaves a shadow. So I swept the net with the total estrogens. Okay. So normally the total estrogens will be 1.7 times your estradiol. My total estrogen's 120, even though my estradiol was 20. So it's a 6-to-1 ratio. So I've got something like approximately an 80 I've got like something like an 87 alpha keto methyl estradiol.
All right. So you at least have some gauge of like.
Yeah, I have some now. Whether it's relative potency for the alpha receptor, relative potency for the beta receptor, no fucking idea.
Sure.
But at least I have a shadow cast because we've got this big bag of estrogen, but only a little bit of is E2s. The rest of it has to be something, and there's no reason to believe it's estrone or estriol.
So where this is headed, is this going to be something you're like, oh yeah, hey, I figured it out. This is the thing, the off-season ticket to go with, or not yet to be determined?
I'm going to basically, everybody's burning themselves out from the inside with EQ, that basically this would be something you would use with the EQ to balance, one being super wet and one being super drying.
Yeah, pretty much your limitation of off-season is like, what can you sustain and tolerate, right?
Yeah, because Masteron's gone. While it was here, everyone shit all over it. And then Masteron left, and then now people are crying because they don't have it.
Oh man, I was so frustrated. Like with, well, I have a mess of a situation. I have it figured out now, and now I'm just testing Primo. That's what's been going on for at least for me. But now it's like shot volume because I have right at the moment 200 mg per mil test and 100 mg per mil Primo. So it's a lot of volume. And I'm trying to push. I am pushing the envelope here from like past off-season data of like if I want a similar rate of change, I need to do that and then some for this off-season. So,
which if I was going to estimate, that sounds like what you're saying is you're running like 1,400 tests and maybe like 2,100 Primo or something like that.
Oh, I don't care. People went on the forum. They're going to see exactly what I do, right? So I was doing 1.8 grams of test, and then I had some EQ, and then I did have some mass left over, so I had this combination. But then my test was underdosed, and then the EQ had my estradiol low, so I'm like, I'm just scrapping this whole thing. Now I have accurate test and Primo, so I'm like, I'm going to go with just these two. And I was like, I've tolerated the 1.5 grams of test with no AI and pretty much mass and Primo mix. So I'm like, I'm just going to run all tests and then like a gram of Primo. So I'm doing 2.5 grams of test and 1 gram of Primo.
That would actually probably put your estradiol at like a 60 or 50.
I think it would be fine because last year I had 1.5 grams of test and 700 Primo. And my estradiol was like a 70. And for me, that's a great spot. And so I'm thinking like, all right, if I bring my test up to 2.5 and I have a little bit more Primo, likely that would be very tolerable. And so far, I'm not full bore in that because I just did this like a week and a half ago. But I've already, you can tell right away that it's going to push progress forward because I already feel way fuller and stronger. So we'll see where this goes. So 3.5 grams. I know people are like probably gawking at that. I see people that respond to some of these cycles, and I think you need so much context around it. Like a lot of guys you see now that are big, yeah, maybe they dial back, but at some point they had to push it to put the initial size on, and then look at what their rate of change has been over the past years that we're talking about now. So I did all the low dose stuff when I was 212. Like I didn't have to push it then, and people gave me shit. You're like, oh, John's a safer use guy, right? It's like, no, I just didn't need to use it then to like grow and prep. But if I want to push size, like I will move up to what I need to make sure that happens.
Well, the irony is you're running 3.5 grams, which is like 14 milligrams per pound, which is below the new threshold of 15 milligrams per pound, which is way below Broderick's old threshold from like 10 years ago, where it's 20 milligrams per pound. So it's like, like no one's even using the basic standard formula on that. But like, it's the same thing with calories almost. If you want to grow, it's 20 milligrams and 20 calories per pound. And it's like that, you will grow. You might get fat, you might lose an organ, but you're going to grow.
Well, it's always like, people probably ask you or as well, like what should my start point be for this next offseason? It's like or even with training, like does this split in volume look too high? I was like, what were you just doing? Like what was your split in volume just this last offseason? What did it do? What cycle did you run and what did that do? it's like there's your next like point of where you make the assessment and you should escalate up or keep it the same or do some type of different compound manipulation to find out where you should be at, right? So I know where I've been at, and over these years I've been titrating up and up and up to where this is like now the biggest I've ever been and strongest, and it makes sense because it's also the cycle has been laid out and the food's where it's at to be at this point.
Right. And like also I'm a firm believer in you want to ramp up slowly over time. But also it's like I also know that there ain't no fucking way I'm putting on new tissue at less than 1.5 grams of the standard operating procedure gear. So if I'm trying new stuff out, then being at 1,000 with some really heavy hitters like Anadrol and Men, let's see, can 1,000 with this lineup stack up against 1,500 of more standard operating procedure gear? And then that gives me some information. Worst case scenario is it takes me longer to get back up to 1,500, but at least I covered my bases for these lower values to see like how much data can I collect here.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely on the fringe and putting new data out there because you just don't, those compounds, they're just not as familiar with people to not really be able to speak to them.
Yeah, it's weird. And I never realized that the reason why we never heard a lot of technical information about a lot of the fringe drugs is because nobody really was investigating them anymore. Like I knew that there was no big pharma investigations, but I didn't know there wasn't any Dan Duchesne's or crazy mad scientists just doing reckless shit with their own bodies. I figured those guys were all over the place, but it's not as common as I originally anticipated.
Yeah, I think something comes about and then somebody picks it up because for a minute there, I don't know, this was probably like 4 years ago where you started hearing about DHB, and then like people were saying DHB, this is going to be like the new Primo, is what they were saying, right? But I guess many people couldn't tolerate the shots. It was a limitation.
Right. I ran into that DHB situation about 8 years ago. Yeah.
Was it 8 years? Okay.
It was a while because remember 4 years ago was after COVID.
Maybe it was before. Maybe it was before.
It was before COVID. Yeah. Where it popped up and it didn't catch on because it was so painful and people were saying it has too much. It's too painful with the shot volume and liver toxicity and stuff where people weren't really running with it.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads it to being like not your first line best option to use. But if you're in a situation like modern day where what do you have? I think the problem lies is like maybe you won't be able to get your total milligram needs if you're really needing to push it. Like if you want the 3 gram cycle, like it comes down to nearly what can you fit into a syringe and tolerate.
And it used to be EQ. Yeah. So test and EQ is pretty much you could put 400 milligrams in a CC a test and 300 milligrams of EQ in a CC. So if you're doing the typical 3 CCs Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you went 2 CCs a test and 1 CC of EQ, you'd be at, what is that, 2.4 grams a test and 0.9 grams of EQ. That'd be 3.3 grams. And you might actually have a functional estrogen.
Yeah. Or that's when DECA comes in, right? And Androlone. I think that's where they would offset it. The old test EQ DECA cycle. Like, why did that work? It's like, because an Androlone.
Right. And that's where I'm all about the MET now. Is like if we can get 10 times the experience without having to use the DECA, fuck, dude. Because 30 NPP gives me gyno, but it took 35 MET to do it. There's no way that MET isn't at least as strong as DECA. It's got to be stronger.
Yeah.
Plus, it's an acetate, so you're getting more of it.
Yeah. So could that be why? Could that be why?
Yeah, that could be why. It could be why. But I mean, it's a dramatic difference between, like, because I would never see a difference in 20 or 30 NPP a day. I wouldn't see a difference.
Yeah.
But fucking 10 men, you're like full as a house all day. So it's in like 20, 30, it just gets crazier.
How do your health markers like get impacted around that? Have you seen?
So my ApoB was up a little bit, but I was also having off-plan meals once or twice a week. So I don't really know how much that's gonna. My EPI was up a little bit. My GGT is actually coming down because I was on so many orals when I was competing.
What do you? Because we know it's hard to even say to go down this pathway right with it with like Trenbolone and its aspects around glucocorticoid influence and neurotoxicity potential, beta amyloid deposition, like
right.
mint being along this class, like could we have a worry around that being a pretty high risk drug, something we can't really measure in labs?
So here's what I think about the beta amyloid plaque situation. The beta amyloid plaque is washed away by deep sleep. And I think the reason why we accumulate those plaques with tren is because the acetate makes it hard to sleep. Nobody's using an acetate. And so that up and down, up and down, up and down, that's what's screwing up people's sleep cycle. Because if I take enough sleeping medications and it's complicated enough of a sleep barrage, I can completely mitigate that tren problem. And I know what you're thinking, like, yeah, but you're not going to notice if he has Alzheimer's yet. So you're right. But it's like one of those things where the same thing with the brain damage, the specific part of the brain was supposed to be visual spatial. Like, why? Why that part? Like, that doesn't make sense. And then it's like, I totally buy into the whole cortisol inhibition. But test inhibits cortisol too. So it's not like being on 2 grams of test, you're safe from brain damage. At that point, what's 10 or 20 tren going to do except for amplify IGF-1?
Well, that's the thing I was going to bring up next was like when you looked at the studies that do compare neurotoxicity of testosterone and androlone, the one it looks like estradiol is the protective component that kind of offsets that. And so with mint, you do get some of that. Now, whether the methyl estradiol has the same properties as your bioidentical one, okay, another case there. But then also when you bring up testosterone high enough, it then also becomes neurotoxic. So you take enough of anything, you're probably just having neurotoxicity present. And then to your other point around tren is that potentially like a lot of those studies, they're just giving tren. And so if you did bring in some estradiol, could that also offset probably some of the sleep issues that guys have with probably just no estradiol being present? Because you know what happens when estrogen goes really low, disrupted sleep, night sweats. It's like those are things that align more with like low estradiol.
Dude, I got to the point where I was layering my Airwick shirts so that I was too lazy taking off cotton shirts. So like I was my meant sweats were so bad with the 6 estrogen that I would have layers of Airwick technology. It was so I could just, and I got like Airwick and just laid that down. I actually got a plastic covered yoga block for my actual pillow, just so I didn't have to sleep in a wet pillow all night.
Well, see, that's interesting because now you're not having night sweats now?
Nope. Because I moved all the Met to the morning and I took out the EQ. And then all the night sweats. Then I put in a little bit of EQ, and now the night sweats are back a little bit. So it's the estrogen component is what I didn't calculate in. I thought it was just as a nandrolone thing. Like when nandrolone's really getting to the limit is when you're not going to make it through the night without sweating.
Yeah. So it's likely the night sweats are the estradiol component. Some other players I believe are in there too, but I think that could be the sign of when your estradiol is getting probably a little too low.
Yeah, 6 is exactly out of the range. So hopefully I'm a good solid 10 right now. Obviously, I like how I look at 32. I think there's not a big difference between 10 and 30 in look, but it seems to be like a kind of a like that type of curve where anything within some reasonable range looks the same. And then once you either look like a balloon or you look like a raisin at the 2 ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, if I get over 100, there's more water there, but I stay lean is a thing, so it's not as impactful, I guess.
100 is where I really stopped seeing the benefits from the IGF-1 conversion. But I remember that I think it was the most you've ever had was that 1,000 test, 2,000 mast, uncontrolled estrogen, and it only got up to 100 on 1,000.
Yeah. And my IGF-1, what was it? I think it was right at It was in the 500s, I believe. It's higher now. This is the highest. It's the highest I've seen my IGF-1
What is it?
because I was like 660.
Shit. And how many units are you using?
Well, I'm using more though, so it's 12. 12 I
Oh,
use.
are
So
you
I'm like, well,
are you using all at that time? You're breaking it up into two.
all at bedtime.
Oh, okay.
And so then that was with my estradiol was right at like 30, 33.
Are you using insulin too?
No insulin.
I didn't think you would. All right. What's your calories at? 5,000?
Yeah.
No, you're low. You're like, what is it? 5,000?
I'm right under it, but it's rounded to 5,000. Let's call it that.
Okay, shit. 5,000, 12 units. Your E2, we don't know, right?
Not off this next run, but
We're estimating it'll be 60.
in 3
Yeah,
weeks.
sounds-
I'll pull it again. We'll see where I'll be at.
I'd love to hear. I think this is going to be, so you're at 660. Wow. What was your estrogen when you had the 660?
77.
77, but that was on the 12 and the 5?
Oh, wait. Did you say when I had it, the last lab at 660?
Yeah, when you had 660.
Yeah, my estradiol was at a 30, 32, 33.
What the fuck? Oh my God.
See, that was the weird thing about it. But when I last off season, my estradiol was in the 70s, but that's when I was on the 1.4 grams of test, the rest being masked and primo, and the IGF-1 was in the high 500s. So now estradiol is lower, but I'm taking more GH.
Oh,
but it's
how
higher.
much more? Was it
Last
from an
off
8 to a
season,
12?
I was around 9 IUs. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
3 IUs more. So I was like, even with the lower estradiol, maybe it doesn't matter because there's more GH there and there's enough estradiol to do the thing it needs to do. It's hard to say with, like, I know we get down to like what does what, but screw it, it's doing what it needs to. But I'm going to be interested to see like what happens when estradiol is going to move up. I know it will, and then what that looks like. But also, my cycle has been escalating when I pulled these labs, and my gear was underdosed. So, could the higher androgen load also drive some of that GH-IGF-1 conversion?
Once there's more than 2 variables, it's silly to start piling them on. There's no way to track it down at that point. Yeah, like we got 2 variables.
I would need too many I would need constants, right? So I think once I'm steady, I'll be able to compare back to my last off-season labs. At least I knew the test and what I was running.
What I'd be interested to see is if you had a continuous glucose monitor after a week, switching from 12 at night to 6 and 6 like you used to do, morning and night, and seeing if it really gives you insulin resistance 2 hours after your first meal with the 6 units insulin. With the 6 units,
I don't think it's a huge deal. Like
I know
resistance.
everyone tells me to do that, and I'm like, dude, I've been using continuous glucose monitor with different patterns of insulin, different patterns of GH. I don't see a change.
I think when do you train in the
right now? I train after meal 1 because I want to get up and get everything for the day done when I'm motivated. Because if I sit down and start playing PS5 or start talking to people or watching movies, I'm not going to want to get up and go to the gym.
Well, I think like that has like good merit because you're not. I feel like when you're seeing that, like where that study comes from, right? It's in children. They split dosing up, AM versus PM, and like these aren't children training and doing all the bodybuilding things. So if you have a training session in the morning, like you're going to be able to shuttle those carbohydrates and not have a need as much insulin to do so, and create more insulin sensitivity around that training bout, to where like the 6 I use in the morning is not a big deal. But at least like last off season, like my A1C doesn't change; it just stays the same. Like I can manage blood glucose well because I'm doing all the things. I'm not getting fat, staying lean, keep doing cardio, train hard, and those are your big ticket items, which I know. Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen my HbA1c under 5.3. Like I think there has to be something different about our red blood cells, and that they read higher than regular people.
Does yours move up while you're in a cycle, or is that something for you that doesn't change?
It was like 5.3 forever. Then there was that one after the Texas Pro last year where I had full blown diabetes. They were like 6.4 with 600 blood glucose and stuff like that. And then that came after that rebound and a mini cut that went pretty much back under control with some insulin. And then once I added in the retatrutide, everything's been fine since this last prep and this proper reversing out. Was that the question? What was your question?
No, it was if your red blood cell count, is it impacted?
That's what you were talking about, red blood cell count. I thought you were talking about like HbA1c. I've never noticed my red count having any significance. It's either 16 to 17, maybe 15. I don't really see it go up and down much. It's never alarming. It's never like 18 or 56 or nothing.
Because I've seen like you could have like an overestimation of A1C, right? Or glucose insulin resistance based on if your red blood cell count shot up and then your A1C was moving up. It might just be more, you have more red blood cells present.
I figured that it was something like if it's supposed to be under 5, but your hematocrit's supposed to be under 50. My hematocrit's never been under 50, and my HbA1c's never been under 5. So maybe it's just I have more glycosylated hemoglobin because I have more hemoglobin.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess if you're static, though, in the number, then it probably is a bit more of a better marker to trend off of. Mine does shift up and down, but even last offseason, going on cycle and seeing my hematocrit rise, it's still my A1C stayed at 5.2, like beginning of offseason to end of offseason. So
I'm going to pay a closer look. I don't think it changed. I've got it in the records. I can go back and look. It's just it wasn't a marker that I paid close attention to because I was comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I will go back and look, though, and see if there's modulation of the red blood cells and whether it correlates with the HbA1c.
But then I'm sure you're going off of like the moment your serum insulin and glucose, and you could get gauging like your HOMA IR score too, and just putting the whole picture together if it really is insulin resistance or not.
Oh, yeah. Like right now, I think like I had like an 86 glucose, but I had like a 12 insulin when I went and got it fasted. So, and then my average glucose with my CGM is about 100 right now.
Oh yeah, with CGM, it's even better data to go off of. I shot 12 IUs before my last blood test the night before, so my insulin was like a 22 in the morning.
Oh, GH.
Yeah.
That's why my fasting insulin's so high, is because I'm always doing 6 or something GH and then 2 in the morning before I go in.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you have like a false state of insulin resistance, like when you're having your
right. I never take it too seriously because I'm just like, I don't know. I don't look in the mirrors. I got striations in my obliques. I'm probably not that insulin resistant.
I mean, I've told people to like, hey, just don't take your GH the night before. If you really want a better gauge of what your like metabolic health looks like. Past labs, I know what my mind does, so I don't care. I just take it and I go get my labs done. But yeah, my serum insulin was like in the 20s. I'm like, yeah, that's what GH does. It's going to do that,
liberates energy for fuel.
It doesn't mean the rest of the day that's like the state that I live in, like looking like a diabetic. It's like, no, it's like part of the process and liberates fuel, and then we have IGF-1 kick up, and that brings it all back down, right? So
it's funny. Me and Dave Palumbo had this conversation where he was saying that he strongly disagrees with taking GH at bedtime. He thinks you should take it in the morning because you already have it at bedtime and your body's not prepared to have it in the morning. And my argument was, I don't dispute that it's great to have it in the morning. I say do it both times. It's like you can always do more. So like he was very concerned with my attitude that it would drive up insulin resistance and create diabetes and stuff. And I was like, my continuous glucose monitor says it doesn't give a shit,
He brought up Broderick earlier, and I remember what he had said about. He's like, yeah, serum insulin's going to be high when you take growth hormone. He's like, fucking good. He's like, that's anabolic. It's like a laugh. You know how passionate he is when he speaks on stuff. It's like, yes, that's true. Like, yes, insulin's going to crank up. That's how growth hormone is supposed to work. It means it's like doing what it's supposed to do. So I have so many people that are trying to chase down fasting blood glucose. I'm like, just don't even measure it. It's like, it's pointless to do if you're taking all your growth hormone in the night, or hell, even in the morning. Then a few hours you're trying to measure your blood glucose. So I think big picture, it's like calories. Like, should I eat more calories in the morning or in the evening? It's like probably the net outcome is going to be a little different, like a little, like pretty close, right? But minimal differences. Same with growth hormone. Like, just take your growth hormone. Like, if it's at night, if it's in the morning, like big picture, you're probably going to get a pretty similar effect. But we're trying to pull out every little bit you can. I usually tell people, like, start in the nighttime until your dosing gets high enough to where it might make sense to start splitting it.
That's what I say is get up to 4 basically. And then everything over 4, you might want to partition in the morning to start.
Yeah. And then, I'll have guys that'll have like, they're waking up because their hands are swollen. It's like, yeah, shift some of the dosage to not have such a big whack of growth hormone to where you're getting more swelling. So I just more myself though, man, it seems I can tolerate it very, very well and take it all at night. And it's a convenience thing. So that's what I roll with. I wondered if I'd get with more IGF-1, splitting it a little bit. I might try that after my next labs. I'll pull my labs as is. I'll split it, and then we'll see if I get more IGF-1 pulled out.
I mean, here we go. The big topic. Do we want to save it for your channel? Or do we want to get it? You want to save it for your channel? All right, cool. Because we're already an hour in. I don't know how much time you have, but I know that it's been 3 or 4 years in the coming is us talking about the Frost study.
No, we should dedicate it. It needs its own conversation.
It needs its own episode. Yeah. It's like,
what's your food at now?
Right now, I'm having, let's see, it's like 350 protein, 400 carbs, and I think 60 fat. So it's just under my maintenance. It's like 37, 33.
Okay.
I'm like 20 calories under maintenance right now.
That's easy to do. That doesn't.
Yeah. It's been
even with the Retta.
weeks.
The Retta doesn't bother you?
I've been pulling it out. So I've been reversing out, I've been pulling out the Retta. So I'm just hungry enough to eat my next meal a half an hour before it's time to eat, and staying in a deficit so that any of the off-plan meals just gets torched off as I go. But I'm not in so much of a deficit I can't grow.
Are you switching that over to something else as you pull it out?
Oh yeah. Well, as we're going up, we're adding food in every week. So like we're just starting this off season. What do you mean, like switching, putting in a different?
Like a lot of people use like MOTC or some other like.
I don't really need the energy from the MOTC. I got plenty of energy right now.
Well, some people are using it just for insulin sensitivity.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
Without
now, nothing
the appetite
for insulin.
Without the appetite impact, I guess.
Yeah, I've never. So right now, I've got nothing in for appetite or suppression. Nothing for glucose management except for the berberine, and I've got 102 average glucose with this many calories. And I think the idea is, obviously as the calories start going up, if the glucose starts going up, I think we'll introduce the 10-minute walks after every meal, because I've got the elliptical right next to the dinner table. So I can just step away from the table, get immediately on the elliptical before I'm allowed to do anything else, and make myself do the 10 minutes. And then I can reintroduce something probably like MOTS or whatever, and to get that insulin sensitivity down. Other than, what do you call it, the walks after each meal and the Retta and the berberine, what do you think are the best ways to get insulin and MOTS that you just introduced? What's the fifth best way?
Oh, those are a lot of those. I still am a proponent of like hard cardio in the off season, like HIIT, low volume, which it's a bitch. It sucks, but man, that's kept me so fit, and I feel like it did keep. That's why my A1C probably didn't shift up from being able to like really drive heart rate up, and like I think more the health aspect. Like I don't think I need that many steps. So if I'm doing 7,000 to 8,000 steps a day, I think when you look at cardiovascular benefits for steps, like these are like sedentary people.
Right.
So like I don't count that as like heart health cardio, but doing like 3 to 4 sessions of that, I think is a good impactor. Staying lean is going to be your biggest one though. So also not eating shitty off-season meals and having that impact you the next day. Because a few of those a week, easily the next day you wake up less insulin sensitive. So and then quality sleep, stress management, like, man, it's like those are the big ticket items that people like. They're quicker to look at their MOTS-C, retatrutide, methylene blue protocol, but they don't address like their shit sleep or like their high stress life that really is what's going to be managing your blood glucose in the off season, your appetite. So yeah, anyway, outside of those basics, I think you could. I think that really covers it well. Like, even I still use metformin. I use a little bit in the PM, and then I tried Retta. That didn't work out personally for me. And then I would like to. I haven't messed with MOTS-C, but that might be something.
Oh, you haven't tried it?
No, that I.
Oh, it's great. It's great. I first tried it. Steve told me that you got to use the whole bottle all at once because it starts to go bad after 10 minutes. And I was like, what about if you freeze it? He goes, I don't know. You should try it. But I didn't want to take the chance because it was $50 a bottle, right? So
Yeah.
you'd shoot the whole bottle and you'd be so hyper for about 36 hours. And then you'd feel good for about 36 hours. Then you'd be wrecked. And then it'd be time for another shot. Then I eventually was like, fuck this. I'm just going to try 1 milligram a day. And 1 milligram a day with like 500 L-carnitine and really works wonders. It's crazy effective.
That seems like that improves the metabolic flexibility that you're trying to pull out of cardio, but not to your cardio. So, yeah.
Well, like on prep, I would be using Clen, L-carnitine, MOTS-C, and SLU, and doing cardio. So
yeah, I guess my thing is I'm not trying to I don't want to eat more food. And I feel like doing a lot of those things would make me eat more food.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're thinking you're basically just speeding up the metabolism wheel, but you're spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
But wouldn't this be in a true statement though? It's better to burn off 500 calories if you're trying to be anabolic than to starve off 500 calories and do.
No, I get what you're saying. My thing is about keeping your waist expanded all off season long with more food. Right.
Okay. So in other words, when you're in prep, we want to have the metabolism as fast as possible. We want to eat as much as we can because if we can stay as close to isocaloric as possible, we might even grow into the show if we're burning off fat actively. But in the off season, we definitely want our metabolism to be as slow as possible. Well, not as slow as possible, relatively slow. So we have less food volume. So we have less abdominal expansion.
I think at least for this point of my career, that's going to be the biggest thing. Of being able to keep up with the food and not have my waist out all day long. But to the cardio point, that's why I do like low volume HIIT, because it showed for a very small caloric output, you get the most heart benefit versus steady state. You need to do 30 minutes. You can do 4 1-minute intervals, and that is enough to get the benefit for heart health and all the metabolic effects as well. So it's the calorie expenditure for it is very low. However, there is a fatigue aspect to consider, but it's a short duration. So if you have all the recovery things in place, I think you could do it. But I agree, to create a lot of deficit just to be able to burn a lot of calories just to eat more food isn't what I would be my goal for the off season.
No, absolutely not. And I like how you put it, is you took the math and you just inverted it, is that HIIT is the inverse of steps, and that for the least amount of time and the least amount of fatigue, you get the most amount of heart benefit.
Yeah.
It's the most efficient way to improve your heart. Just like steps is one of the, I wouldn't say efficient, but the purest way to apply negative calories to your body.
Yeah, it's eases the burden. There's such a low stimulus. There's no adaptations that we don't want, to become an endurance athlete, right? And walking doesn't accumulate a lot of fatigue until you get to really high amounts, 20,000 steps a day. So that's basically what we're all trying to do, right? Is just get to manage health, but also our food volumes, and have it all go towards resistance training and improving that. So
it sounds like the optimal way to do it is in the off season, HIIT for up 4+ intervals, 2 times plus per week, and then have steps after every meal so that you get the step benefit and you also get the insulin sensitivity benefits immediately to that particular meal, staying away from lists or miss. And then for contest prep, we're going to want to do a lot of lists, not waste our time with steps because they're time inefficient. Although you could always walk on the elliptical when you talk on the phone, have a standing desk, a treadmill desk. There's plenty of ways to be more efficient with your time. But after a while, you're just going to tear into your NEAT to the point where you're a zombie.
And then pull the hit out, because the health benefits are going to be there just from pulling body weight down and less food. And then that's when I like remove it.
Well, I think people forget about how hard posing is because they don't do it. But posing's like 130 heart rate for a lot of people. It is hit cardio.
It is. Like that's when that comes in, right? Like I've done reels and information around that too. Yeah. But if you
were the first person to actually put it into the formula, though.
Yeah.
Nobody ever wanted to put it on the left side of the equal sign with a negative.
You don't think of it, right?
Nobody thinks of posing as being like, it's not cardio, but it's not cardio. And it is high intensity heart health. So it's kind of like HIIT cardio. So it has to be its own category, but it's definitely subtracting from your total amount of calories in the day.
Yeah. In that study that they measured energy expenditure and heart rates, like it classified itself into moderate to vigorous intense cardio, like that level of effort that was required. So, I mean, it falls into the same category of doing some type of HIIT type cardio.
Was this a seasoned person who used to posing, or is this someone who hasn't learned the adaptations you need in the beginning of posing?
I have to recall to the actual study. I know these were bodybuilders they had.
They were. Okay.
Not some random like, hey, you're going to do bodybuilding posing today. So they were, actual bodybuilders that were familiar with posing.
Okay.
But yeah, they did it's like a 15-minute posing bout and measured heart rate throughout, energy expenditure. And it counted for the energy expenditure and heart rate targets they got up to was that of like moderate to vigorous intense cardio. So,
wow.
But most people probably don't pose like that, though, I imagine, throughout their prep. Because
15 minutes nonstop? Fuck no. Not unless your coach is standing there.
Yeah. That's what I do, though. Like in the prep, like that is, I put on, I funny that my friend made a from the Olympia, Steve Weinberger, calling out poses. And so I put that on a loop, and I'll just pose 4 rounds to Steve calling me out. And so it adds up to about that 15-minute mark, which is brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
That's funny. I hate it. That's funny, though. But it's like it's neural programming because you're going to react to Steve. We just have to hope that Tyler's softer voice doesn't frighten you into posing as hard, that you're conditioned to only respond to Steve's authoritative.
And so when Steve calls that front double and he doesn't let you pull it down in 5 seconds, and then you're not shocked by that, you're like, oh, okay, I have to keep pulling my abs in. No, I got this now.
Oh, man. Yeah, whenever I look back at video of me and I'm trying to take screenshots of when the pose looks good, it's like a nanosecond. Like, I thought I held it perfect for 3 seconds. It was like a nanosecond. Like, I'm already releasing the left side of my body when the right side got hard.
The hardest I ever posed was at the Vancouver Pro. It was the promoter that runs that show. What's his name? Forget it. I'm blanking on it now, but
he's like
40. No.
Ronald Hess or something like that?
Okay. Oh, yeah, Ron. You pull up the front double, and you're like holding the vacuum, and you're like, all right, he's going to call it. I can keep holding it. Then he's not calling you to the next pose. You're like about to like pass out, it feels like. And then he finally moves you. You're like, oh, dear God. I should have learned to hold this vacuum for longer.
Yeah, dude, that is the most brutal. I still do your vacuum training every morning after 4 years. I'm still not very good at it. So I'm getting better, though. I'm figuring it out.
Yeah, I think it's something just to keep training. I think in the off season, I do them while I'm prepping my breakfast is when I do them now, because I have a hard time just staying in one spot and keep I'm going to do the vacuum. So if I can do that while I'm like put some in the microwave, do a vacuum, and by the time I have my breakfast all done, I've done like 8-10 sets. So
that's what I started doing. Is I also have to get the stopwatch out. If I don't use the stopwatch, I'm not competitive enough to make progress over time. I go backwards.
Okay. I'm going to jump a topic because I have a question for you. Is do you time your sets, your rest periods?
I used to. And then I got back into it recently. I got lazy and I just started using either the wall clock or I used the song counter of the song I'm listening to. But before that, I used a stopwatch. I even was bad enough that I had one phone that was for music and one phone that was a stopwatch, and both of them were on airplane mode because I didn't want to talk to any motherfucker.
Today I realized on my Apple Watch is that there's a timer. Oh, you can see
I found that.
And it has a 3-minute and a 5-minute. I was like, this is so cool. So today I was like, I did 5 minutes between my like main compound sets.
Before I broke my Apple Watch, I set it so that it was a secondhand one for the purpose of timing my sets in between sets.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, Todd, I think I'm going to go eat a meal. We should set up to do the next, our next podcast. We'll talk. We'll line it up.
All right. Let's figure out with Luke what day you want to have me on, and then we'll talk about GH. It'll be part 2 to the part 1 that was anabolics on your channel.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Cool.
It'll be awesome. I can't wait. All right,
Todd,
buddy.
thanks for having me on to not put all this
My
pressure
pleasure.
on me and I can just shoot the shit.
Yeah, I know. I was like, you've been so mean to him all the time because you're too excited to talk to him. Now we'll be able just to shoot the shit because we talk more regularly. It'll work. Will be perfect.
Yeah. Well, cool.
All right, buddy. Well, you have a good night, and I will talk to you later, okay?
All right, Todd. Thanks again.
All right. Bye-bye.